Hey guys, it's me, Cyrus. Welcome back. And today we're going to be looking at Game Boy stuff. We're actually going to be looking at this Everdrive. It's not an official Everdrive. This is one that I picked up off AliExpress. This is a Game Boy and Game Boy Color Everdrive. And it comes with an SD card already in it. And a bunch of games, not all the games, but it does have a bunch of games, and you can easily add more to that if you like. But how does this thing work? Well, it's very straightforward, very easy to use. You just plug it in and go with it. And I'll show you how it works on a variety of different devices, because it is compatible with all of this stuff. It'll work on your Game Boy Advance. It'll work on your regular Game Boy. It'll work on a Game Boy Color, which I don't have a Game Boy Color, so I can't show you that. Also works on the Super Game Boy for Super Nintendo and Super Famicom. And it works on the Game Boy Player for the GameCube. So we'll go through some of this pretty quick. Let's start it up with the original Game Boy. This is a Game Boy Pocket, but obviously it'll still work on the regular Game Boy as well. Okay, quite a few games to choose from. We've already got a Mario game loaded in memory, so we'll just start that one. Super Mario Land 2, classic. Yeah, you're not really going to be able to see this too well. Alright, we'll try it in the Game Boy Advance. See how that goes. Alright, it's on this side. We'll just load up Legend of Zelda here. And I like how it has this little blue indicator letting you know it's loading the games. So we're going to try this for the Super Game Boy now. You just plug it in straight like that, like you would think. And then we'll just plug this straight into the Super Famicom right here, like that. And let's see how it goes. Okay, here we go, loading it up. We're not going to be able to play Game Boy Color games, obviously. This is just going to support Game Boy games. It'll play the enhanced Super Game Boy games, but no Game Boy Color. So Alright, last but not least, we're going to try this thing out in the Game Boy player for the GameCube. Get our disc in there. This is my original old school GameCube. It's got the Game Boy player attached to the bottom here. So we're just going to stick this thing in. It goes in like that. We'll see how it works. We'll see how this thing works on the GameCube Game Boy player. By the way, I want to mention that I'll be using this controller, and again, not sponsored. I just bought this and I like this controller a lot. Pretty nice little controller for the GameCube if you're playing Game Boy games and stuff like that. So this is what I'll be using during the test. All right, here we go. Fiddle with our settings just a little, make sure everything looks how we want. I'm just using the standard operating system for the Game Boy player. There are ways you can get a little bit better picture out of yours if you know how to do that with the right equipment and the right stuff, but we're just using the standard stuff for mine. So, yeah. There you go. All right, now this will do Game Boy Color and Game Boy. It'll do Game Boy Advance too, but this cartridge obviously just supports Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Okay, it's a little excessive, but all right, it is Duke Nukem. And it's a Game Boy Color game. Remember that.
Earth, Aurora City, Television Studio, 7:12 p.m.
Today on the show, we're honored to be joined by that quintessential hero, Duke Nukem. Bring it down just a little bit. Duke, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
You've been riding an incredible wave of success since saving the world a few years back. But tell us, who is Duke Nukem really?
Hey, what's that light? It's like some sort of tractor beam.
Wow, this is fascinating. So, if you never played the original old school Duke Nukem on PC, this is like that, but it's like a enhanced version of that.
Yeah, piece of cake.
Surprisingly, this is really good. Really easy to do your moves and everything. Wow, Street Fighter Alpha on the Game Boy Color. Wow, this is a weird Resident Evil. So here's an issue. RType DX. When you start up the game, it does something weird. Like, you have your ship, right? And you can fly around. You can shoot. But there's no game. It's just like this. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with this thing? Why is it doing this? I'm not really sure. But if you pause it, and you just hit start select and the two buttons at the same time, it brings you back to the main menu here. And here you get the full options. You get like what you would expect. So I'm not sure why that happens, but I never owned RType DX on the Gameboy Color. I'm going to turn that volume down just a little. It's kind of crazy. Alright, so you get several versions of it here, which is pretty cool. Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and then you get the RType DX game, which is what we're going to play real quick. If you never played Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, wow, you gotta play it. It is fantastic. And the story leads straight into Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo. So, you know, I mean, I know that it's kind of going backwards if you are used to some of the newer Metroids and stuff, but this game is fantastic. It's just really, really good. Good graphics, good sound, really solid gameplay. Tons. I played the hell out of this on my old school Game Boy. Just amazing. And this is a great way to play it. You can see it is enhanced a little bit for the color for the Super Game Boy. That's pretty cool. Okay, so my overall impression is that this is a very well made cartridge. It runs on everything that it's supposed to. It runs all the games. So for 30 bucks, I mean, I don't know. It seems like a no-brainer to me. This is just a great way to experience Game Boy games on a variety of different hardware platforms in a variety of different ways. Game Boy and Game Boy Color. Just a great solution for playing those games on original hardware of all different kinds. So, anyway, that's it. Let me know what you think. Do you own any Everdrives? Are you opposed to these things? Do you think they're pretty cool? Is it a good way to supplement your library of collected cartridges? Or is this a bridge too far for you? Let me know your thoughts. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.